FLOSSTUBE, it's Jen, also known as Quirks and Stitches. I have started recording this about 3 times now and just don't feel like I'm getting my rhythm right, so I keep restarting. So hopefully a 3rd time's a charm and I will actually enjoy what I'm saying enough to think that you guys might enjoy to watch it. So it is almost the end of June. I don't think I've filmed like an actual FLOSSTUBE since either June had just started or like the very end of May, because life got crazy. I keep saying I'm going to be a regular FLOSSTuber and have like specific days that I film, and I just don't think that's in the cards for me. Maybe someday, but right now there's too much being scattered. And then, you know, I keep popping on and doing my 24-hour stuff on here, but, you know, there's people that might watch my FLOSSTUBE that don't really care about the 24-hour stuff. So I don't want my channel and everything to only be that. So I'm really trying to kind of space it out and make sure that I'm also checking in and not just giving instructions for that kind of stuff. So today's goals is to share what I've been stitching in June, share a little bit of haul. I have more somewhere, but I pulled out what was important or readily accessible. Probably important wasn't the right word. It's readily accessible. I'm going to go over some of my July stitching plans, and I want to share what I've been stitching for the month of June, if I didn't already say that. And some happy mail and some organizing things and just some overall happy life updates. So that's kind of what I'm going for. I have a full table around me, so I'm not sure where to attempt first. But I think we're going to start with happy updates. So, found out last minute that I am going to be able to attend StitchCon. I'm super excited. My mom and I are going down. We're leaving here on Thursday. It's about 3 hours away, so we're going to go. And I'm super overwhelmed and don't know what to expect because I've never been to a retreat before and there are going to be so many people there and I just don't really know. But I'm really excited. So if you're going to StitchCon, find me and say hi. And, you know, I might be a little awkward because I'm not in front of my camera and I'm a little awkward sometimes. So just bear with me until I get comfortable. That was Watson behind me. Wandering. I'm not sure where she's going. She doesn't usually walk down the hallway that way. She must be going to sit at the stairs, hoping someone will take her out upstairs. But, so, going to StitchCon, that's kind of put a little bit of a kink in my whole June stitching plan because now I feel like I'm missing, I'll be gone Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. That's 4 days out of the month that I was going to like hardcore stitch to really finish everything for my June challenges, and I don't think that's going to happen. And I'm nervous because I've realized I really like these challenges. I really like tracking how many stitches I'm getting and seeing that. I'm a person that really likes to track data. I was remembering like way back when I had like a website that was totally pointless and only for me. It was pretty much like a diary that was like password protected and like 2 people had the password, and it wasn't anything that like anyone really needed to see, but I had like what songs I was listening to on my iPod, back in the day before it was like connected with your phone because I'm old, and I used to like record on my website how many times I had listened to each track. Like, who cares about that? Like, what information, nobody cares how many times I've listened to Regina Spektor. Except for me, because I do, and it was a Regina Spektor time in my life, so that one album was my favorite and on repeat a lot. But yeah, I don't know why I do this, and so I'm so caught up right now about stitch counts and how many, you know, tracking this data that is literally going to sit in this notebook and go nowhere. Like, no one is going to look at it. Nobody's going to do anything with it. I'm not gonna do anything with it, but I'm stuck on doing that, which is fine, and I've, you know, enjoyed that time, but I've also realized that counting stitches and doing that kind of stuff has made stitching a very kind of not social activity because I don't want to lose my place. And so if I'm stitching upstairs with my mom, we don't talk, and, you know, until we're both like not counting because you don't want to mess somebody up. And I haven't, it's kind of made it a little, it's different. I like it. I like having that information. But because I skip all around in my stitching, I don't know how to just mark it on a pattern. And so I'm going back and forth with my love-hate relationship with counting right now, because I really do like tracking the data. And like last week, I realized was the least amount of stitching I have accomplished since I started tracking. Why? Why did that happen? Like least in like a marked amount. Like typically I've been getting between like 6,000 is like a low week for me. And like 10, 11,000 is pretty standard. And then last week I got, oh, I didn't even count them. I didn't even total them. Like it was just very minimal, like 300 stitches a day. Like, I don't know why that happened. But I like knowing that. I like seeing that. Actually, I do totally know why that happened, and I will share that in just a moment. But, but it's thrown a whole crimp into like kind of tracking my stitching for June, because I feel like I want to be done with all of my counting by the time I go to StitchCon, so that when I'm sitting at the table, I'm not going to be like, don't talk to me, please, or that I'm annoyed with people because I lost my place counting. So I really am trying to finish up everything that I have pending. So it's happening at a good time, kind of, because I can start July fresh. I was super excited. Like I've told you, I use this notebook to record all my stuff, but I've been on like a planner buying frenzy. I like planners from TJ Maxx or Home Goods or any of those that are all the same company, and typically that's where I go to get my planners. I was an Erin Condren girl. I've had one of those before, and I loved it, but it's a lot of money to spend on a planner that I may get bored with and then want a new planner, because that happens quite a bit. So I typically will get these. Love them. I've showed it to you before. I was super excited when I went into TJ Maxx and I found the big version of it for 2019-2020. So this one starts in July. So I'm going to switch from recording everything in my notebook to recording my daily stuff in here. So I think I'm still, and it matches. Matchy. I used to be like a clashing queen too. Also floral, not usually my thing. Pink, not usually my thing, but I love these, and I'm no idea why. But so I'm gearing up to start recording everything in this in July. So I figure last weekend in June, I'm going to relax. I'm not going to be super paranoid about making sure that everything is counted, because I'd rather enjoy my time. So that's kind of what's going on. Those of you that have been to StitchCon before, hopefully I'm getting this up before I go. There's going to be some editing that's going to need to go into it, so maybe tomorrow it'll actually go up. Today is Monday. Is it Monday? Yes. Brandon was homesick today, so my days are a little scattered. But it is Monday the 24th of June. So that's kind of, I'm gearing for it. So if you have suggestions, for me, what I need to bring to StitchCon, tell me. I know I'm not participating in the smalls exchange because I didn't want to feel rushed. I've never gone to one and seen how like they're done or what is included or anything like that. And I didn't want to stress myself out with having to get that done. So not doing that. I know they do a needle minder exchange. I don't make needle minders, so I'm probably not doing that. Or I'm not doing that because I don't have any to take. But I know they do like the finish table where you take like finishes that you're really super excited to show. I don't even know what to take. Like, I'm leaning towards like that one, maybe. I have Hawk Run that was really big and is done. But I don't know. What would people want to see? And then if you're going to StitchCon, if there's stuff I'm stitching or there's stuff that I should bring, like that you want to see that I have that I'm working on, tell me and I'll pack it. We're not flying, so I have, lots of room in the car to bring whatever I want. And make sure, like if you're coming, just come find me. Don't let me be awkward. Just be like, Jen, I know you. We're fine. You can get past the awkward stage real quick with me because I've seen you, and I'll try. So that's StitchCon. I've mentioned a couple times now that my life has been a little bit crazy the past couple weeks. And I think it's about to continue to stay a little crazy. So those of you that know, I moved to Ohio in October. I left my job. I was directing at an early childhood center. And there were aspects of my job that I really, really liked. There were aspects that I really, really was okay taking some time and taking a little sabbatical and just finding my peace and finding my calm again and deciding what my purpose was. You know, I toyed for a long time whether I wanted to stay in the field, whether I wanted to jump somewhere else. There weren't, I wasn't finding organizations here that were similar enough to what I was accustomed to. And I really, I didn't want to jump back into directing at a center, especially if it wasn't like close by, because things happen. I mean, my center flooded. Like there were things that I had to be there like at a moment's notice, and you just never felt like you were away. So I didn't want to necessarily jump into doing that somewhere that we didn't live. And because we're staying with my parents right now, we don't necessarily think we're going to stay in this immediate area. But that would put me commuting for that type of job, which was hard because like I looked at a couple in, one in Cleveland, and just wasn't feeling the peace that I needed to about it. So I've been putting feelers out, but I've really been kind of, I told you I was job hunting. I told you, all that kind of stuff that was going on. But I've been very selective, I guess is a word that maybe works, about what I was applying for. Because, I went through a phase where I was just applying to everything. But I wanted to find something that really fit. And I'm excited to announce that I accepted an offer. So we're in the preliminary, not preliminary. We're finalizing everything right now. Getting clearances back. For those of you that have ever worked with children, the whole process of being allowed to be near children takes a little bit. So I'm waiting for that stuff to come back, and they've already done my reference checks. They've already done all that kind of stuff. So it's looking really good. I don't know when it will be starting, but I'm going to be working with teachers in early childhood classrooms. So it's a lot of the aspects that I really loved about my old job: building staff, helping, mentoring, coaching, and just encouraging how to bring high quality to what they're doing. So I'll be traveling to centers a lot. So it's all those things that I really liked about what I did, without the, hopefully, fingers crossed, all the things, without, not the quotation marks. I don't know why I did those. Those were wrong. I know they're wrong. But it'll be without the, hopefully 2 a.m. call outs and things like that, that just made the job really difficult. So I'm really excited. It's going to totally cut into my stitching time, and I'm coming to terms with that. And I think that's why last week I just didn't put as much as my time into it. I was getting my physical done. I was, setting my mind up to be in a routine again. So it's been, kind of this, oh, but what about stitching? Oh, but what about, this has been what I've been pouring myself into, for the past 6 months or whatever. And I'm bummed to be losing it. There's a part of me that really is. But honestly, it's not most days I'm not sitting around and stitching all day. I'm doing other things. It's just been, my focus has predominantly been stitching. So I'm going to have to kind of be putting it on it like everybody else that has full-time job, having that balance. But I'm really excited. So thank you to all of you that have reached out during this process, that have been so encouraging about what type of work to get into and things like that. I really thought I wanted a complete career change, and it took me a while to really realize I'm really good at what I do, and there are aspects of it that I really like, and I can use that to hopefully be building, and there's going to be room for growth. It sounds like an amazing organization I'm going to be working for, so I'm super excited. Don't know when I'm starting, hopefully sometime in the next few weeks, but I'm just waiting for everything to get back. So major deja vu right now, though. I don't know where that one came from. But thank you to those of you that have walked me through this process. Sharon, I'm talking to you. So that is my life in a nutshell right now. Watson's back in her bed. I am going to talk about let's talk about some haul and some... No, do we want to do that? Do we want to do... Sometimes I wish this was live and you could tell me what you want to see right now. Do you want to see the stitching? Do you want to see the patterns? Do you want to know what I'm going to be stitching? I think we'll talk July plans first. So, and then we'll go into what I've done for June and what I'm going to try to finish because I have a lot of that to show. So, I picked up a couple things that I'm hoping to get started in July. I know the last time I talked to you, I had planned to start Let Freedom Ring for my high tea start on Sunday. It was also going to be one of my letters for my 24 acrostic, the F, and I realized 24 stitches just on that Sunday was going to be tight, and then with StitchCon, that's not going to happen. So I'm postponing my high tea start, and I am amending what I am going to be doing because I think I'll do that one in July because I was like, oh, I'll start it in June because it's leading up to July 4th. Well, it's not like I'm going to have it finished by July 4th. It's going to be a 10-year project or whatever it's going to be from my life. But I could start it in July, and it could be my July start. And then I found out that Heather over at the Imperfectly Perfect Stitcher is hosting a birthday sale starting on July 2nd, and it's a pattern that I have wanted to stitch for a really long time. I've seen several people doing it. And she was just kind of the final push to just go ahead and buy it. And it was my, hey, I got a job offer purchase too. So I'm going to be starting a peacock, a unicorn, and a badger. I am. And I don't have my fabric yet. I'm not doing it with silks. There's too much. It's full coverage. I am going to be doing it with the DMC. I'm going to be doing it on 40 count of some sort. And I toyed with doing, because it's all full coverage, this green, you know, I could pick like a darker fabric and do it that way, but I don't think I want to. Because I don't think I'll enjoy the whole stitch. I don't love stitching on really dark fabric, so I want to enjoy the whole process. So I'm going to be starting this July 2nd, and it's going to be my belated high tea start for June. Thanks, Heather. I'm super excited about it. Yeah, I love it. And it's not a typical like me pattern. And I think that's why I love it so much. So starting that July 2nd, if you are interested, there is a hashtag. I think it's, I'll link it below. I think it's IPS B-Day Sale. And I couldn't, you know, I was buying one thing from them, so I wanted to get another. I picked up Circling Alphabets. I had never seen this before, and I'm an alphabet lover. So the pattern wouldn't be a video if I did something not wrong. It's sideways, because the A, B, C, D. That was really hard. And I don't even have wine in my glass. That's coffee. So I picked this one up too because I really liked it. I figured no chart can travel alone. So I'm going to be not starting that in July, but it's added to my stash. Also July, I'm going to be joining in with Olivia over at Cochran Hollow doing they're starting the Birds of a Feather, Sally Spencer. I don't have the hashtag for this one either, but I will link it below when I do the notes. And I had started this for Stitch Madness this year, so I do have this one. I think I've only worked on it maybe 1 or 2 days. And I'm doing this on 40 Count Legacy by Picture This Plus, so I'm going to be joining in. My goal is to hopefully have this be my 30-minute-a-day project for July. I'm not quite finished my 30-minute-a-day project for June yet, though, so I don't know if I'm just going to stop that one or what. For those of you that don't know, I've been stitching on a project. I'm doing the HL's Moth with Diana. She started that sal because I'm in a join all the sals that I can phase. So I started that one June 1st, and I've only been stitching for 30 minutes a day. I set a timer, and when the timer goes off, I stop. Well, I don't stop. I finish the thread I'm stitching with. Sometimes I cheat it and I load the needle even though I know the timer is ready to go off. But if the needle is already loaded, then I keep stitching. So some days I got like 37 minutes. But for the most part around 30 minutes a day, and not totally finished it. So I don't know. I kind of liked being able to see, like I have an album on Facebook that's just seeing the daily progression of it, but there've been a few days now that I haven't stitched on it, so I've missed a few. You guys are getting all the glimpses of Watson. What are you doing, pup? So I don't know, but I'll be showing you that when I show you my stash. So that's another July plan for me. And then I'm not sure when I'm starting this one, but I figured I would share it with you guys. I don't know if I talked about it before, but Ink Circles is releasing this map project that is really cool. Like, it's kind of like a choose your own adventure book, where and it's like Dungeons and Dragons meets cross stitch. Like, hi, have you met me? And Michelle over at The Day Before Michelle and Tina over at Reality something. I don't know your Instagram name, Tina. Don't yell at me. But we decided we would be stitching it. So I got the pattern. I think it calls to do, like, it's a very free and open-ended. So you just have to kind of pick your color scheme, and then you're going to roll dice. It's got like you had to get a whole dice set, which thankfully, because my husband's made me play D&D, I have. And you get to make a map of some fantasy land. I have to figure out a name for my fantasy land. I don't know, I always call everything Jennersville, and I'm not naming my fantasy map adventure project Jennersville. So I'm going to have to do something creative and figure that out. But it calls to do on like a parchment-y type fabric, and I'm thinking I'm just going to go with ale because I have a huge piece of it. And I think the color will work. Thoughts? So that's also going to be happening hopefully in July. I want to get that started so I'm not super, super far behind with it. Mail and things. I got some mail this month. I ordered some needle minders from Heather, and those are awesome. I don't have it near me, and hold on, I'll be right back. I'm back. I didn't actually go anywhere. Brandon brought it to me because he's sick and I made him get up and travel. But I ordered a couple of needle minders from Heather. I don't use needle minders because I don't use a frame, so to put it on my fabric would weigh my fabric down too much. But I do use magnet boards, and I've decided I feel a little left out of the needle minder game, so I'm gonna start getting them for my my magnet boards. So I picked out the octopus for me, doing Get Crack, and I felt like it was appropriate. And I picked out my mom. I got her a mason jar, and then Heather sent over this skull, so I gave that one to Brandon reluctantly, and also this really cool owl that they're running away from each other. So I did get those things. So if Heather's shop is amazing, like, they're great needle minders. Just check it out. I'll link her below. I got a package from Donna Ray, but I'll show you that as I'm going through what I'm stitching because it was kind of theme oriented. And then I had loaned a pattern out to Glenn over at the Southern Stitcher, and she sent that back to me, but she also included this really awesome stitching journal. So it's really cool, and it's set up for May, but you could use it for any month. You don't have to just use it for May. But it gives you a whole place to record all of your information about the project, and yeah, I'm really excited about it. So I was like, perfect timing, because I need to stop recreating the wheel and just use things that are pre-made, and I don't have to create my own. So thank you so much. I think that was it. What have I been stitching? So, like I said, I've been focusing this month on my 24 challenge and trying to use the projects that I picked for that with my other challenges. So I'm in 4 challenge groups. I'm in mine. I'm in Magical Stitches. I am in the Lord of the Rings, and I'm in Cross Stitch Journal Daily 30. So I do not feel like it is cheating if I'm stitching on something for one of the groups to use it also for another group, because I'm not double dipping in the groups. I won't. If it's an assignment for the group, it's separate stitches. But it's been fun to try to kind of tie them in. And I'm doing these community, encouragement for that. And then also just to motivate me, because I tend to need a process for why I'm stitching what I'm stitching. So my main focus, though, was trying to pull from my 24 hours. I had picked really big projects, one for every letter. I did my 10 biggest projects, and my goal was 2,400 stitches. Well, that was a little ambitious. Didn't happen. Don't think it's going to totally happen. But it is Monday, and I do have some time. I mean, I have prep to do for StitchCon, so I don't have a ton of time left. And like I said, I'm not going to be counting 1,000 things when I'm at StitchCon. So if you see me counting, shut my iPad. But I wanted to kind of, I did say when I set my goal of 2,400 stitches that this may be overly ambitious, and I would be happy if I got 1,200 on each of the letters. I have met that part. But I didn't meet 1,200 on my big projects because I just got really burnt from going from one big project to another big project. I love my big projects, but I think what I want to do with them is maybe have one a month be a focus piece instead of like, I don't know, it's a lot to get them out of the bag and unfolded and ready and the patterns where they need to be, especially if you're crossing pages and putting, it's more in depth than just pulling out a piece and stitching. So, and then it was like, oh, so, I started with my T and I got all 2,400 done on that first one. But then I didn't have it to use if a challenge, I don't know, I don't know how to explain this. Like if another challenge, if I could stitch on that piece for another challenge, I was already at 2,400 stitches. So it was almost like wasteful to add more to that. I don't ever want to get that I feel like my stitches are wasteful, though, because any stitch in a project is getting it for closer to completion, unless I'm stitching it in the wrong place and then I have to frog it out, which has been happening quite a bit. So my goal, going to just go through. For T, I was going to do Ghoultide Welcome by Plum Street Samplers. Goal, 2,400 stitches. This is Ghoultide Welcome. I'm going to have Brandon insert here where I was. And this is one I did actually get my 2,400 stitches on. So I got this one done pretty quickly at the beginning of the month. So I'm pretty good. I'm going to be working on the house next, which I'm excited to work on the house. So I made it all the way down the side of the page and got most of the flowers done. There's a little bit more fill-in that I'm going to need to be doing there. I had this whole big debacle with I was off somehow, and I couldn't figure out how I was off. In the grand scheme of things, nobody was going to know by looking at this, but I was. And it ended up that I stitched the bird's legs in the wrong place or something. So I had to go out and, redo that because it would have driven me crazy. But I love this piece. I'm doing it on a 36 count vintage sand dune. Vintage? It's either vintage or not vintage. It's sand dune, though, by Lakeside Linens. And, yeah, I really love it. I love the color scheme in it. I'm super excited. I picked up Jack's Bash, and I feel like the color scheme is very similar in that one to this. So I'm excited to do that eventually when I don't have 1,000 projects. I decided that I was going to make a spreadsheet. So I have my whip ball. It needs to be updated because I had a challenge that I had to pick my 5th biggest project or my 2nd biggest project or something. And I've struggled because I have all of my things color coded by what size I think they are. And I realized that was too, there weren't enough rules. So Jen and her rules. There weren't enough guidelines for me to know if I was actually putting them in the right category. So what I did was I made a spreadsheet of all of my whips. And it's anything that has been in my whip basket since January. So that means things that I entered the year with, things that I've started, or things that I entered the year with and abandoned. Yeah. I made a spreadsheet and I added columns for had the stitch count and what fabric it's on and the pattern and all of those things. And decided I was just going to start kind of categorize my sizes. And I decided I would use Stitch from Stash. They have a little formula. And I go back and forth whether I love the formula or if I think it's cheating, because it totally works if it's full coverage. But if it's not full coverage, then it doesn't totally work. But they have a different allowance for full coverage things. I just tend not to stitch full coverage, so I never had to use it, so I don't know that aspect as well. So it makes a lot of sense. I always felt like you got a lot of credit, like if you just stitched a line, like, because you do something where you add the two sides together and then divide it by 2 when you're figuring out like how many stitches are in that general area. But if you stitch like a straight line of stitches, that's a whole lot easier than like jumping around and doing stuff. So anyway, I decided to use that guideline for determining the size of my things. So like if it was under 50, it was a mini. If it was under 100, it was between, 51 and 100, it was a small. If it was between all the way up. And I figured out sizes for everything. So I'm going to have to like recategorize some of those. All this to say, I listed them all on a spreadsheet, and I've, since January, have at some point in my rotation of everything I'm doing, have had 140 whips. I think. Let me double check. Hold on one second. Bear with me. I'm looking on my computer right now, so... 2019. It's not whip list 2019, it's 2019 whips. Where did it go? There it is. It is opening. My computer is running a little slowly today. Yeah, so on my list, oh, this is sad. Where are my numbers? Oh, I found them. I just had to click a button. 131. Okay, so it's not as bad as I thought it was, which is really 130 because one of the rows is numbered and it is the header row. So 130 whips that have either been there pre-2019 or started during 2019. And I have finished over 40 of them. So I think 42. So I was really excited. Like I was like, that's not, I finished like 20 last year, so I'm already double how many I finished. So I was really, really excited. I'm telling my mom, yeah, I had 130 and now I finished 42. And she just looked at me and she's like, Jen, that means you still have 88. I was like, oh, fine. But, whatever. It's how I'm stitching right now. Someday I'll get tired of it and just want to finish everything. But right now, I just like stitching them and I like jumping around, so that's what I'm doing. So that was a long way to say that episode I did for T for 24, and that letter is actually knocked out. It is done and completed, fully done, as I intended. W, I am not finished yet. I have met the 1200, but I decided I am not just using, this is where I started to amend my thing too, because I couldn't just use the one project. I was burning myself out on these really big things and I didn't want to do that. So I started incorporating other projects in. So I'm using multiple projects to satisfy the challenge. So my original plan was to use Life After Death because of the whale. W, whale. Jen loves whales. And this is where I was. And I have gotten just over 1,500 stitches on this. So I completed the 1,200 that I, was my secondary goal. And I love this piece. I wish that the color would show to you what it is. I'm using, this is a piece of 40 count Days Gone By. I believe it's by Silkweaver. I love the fabric. The modeling on it is just perfect. And then I'm using Storm Clouds by Gast. And it's like green and dark and just love it. I feel like, Abby, are you stitching it with that too? I think so. I think we're using the same threads. I'm not doing individual stitches. It might be sacrilegious to some of you, but I stitch the same way with over-dyed threads as I stitch with DMC unless I really feel like the variegation needs to be individual stitches. So I have 24 stitches on that, and then I needed for one of my challenge groups to stitch on something that had like ice or snow on it. So I was planning on using this. I was like, okay, winter cometh, it'll work for that. And then I'm sitting there, I'm thinking, okay, now that I've succumbed and I'm not only going to be doing my big projects, I need to try to plug these in to give me extra stitches to try to get to my 2,400 in each of these. So I'm going through and I'm like, okay, well, snow, no, that's not a letter in 24. Ice, not a letter in 24. Bird, bee, no. And so I'm going through everything. And I finally am like, oh, well, summer house stitch works. Works as W. I can use it for that. Hi, the pattern is called Winter Cometh. Like, how hard was it for me to see that W there that I had to go to that W at the very... Jen's head is a little bit not in the game. I don't have a really pretty starting picture of this one because I didn't do like my staged ones when I did this. But this is where I was before I started. And I got a little over 500 stitches on this. I really like this piece. I was able to tie it in then to like magical stitches and stitch in blue because I had to do blue. So I used it for a couple different challenges this past week. I'm doing this on a 30 count. I don't remember what fabric it is though, so sorry. But I think it's 30 count. I started this for Madness 2019 and it's stitched in panels. It's really interesting how like the colors, I've never stitched anything like that where it's just the monochromatic in the section. I need more thread though. But I found more of this is 823 and it was in another one of our projects that I finished. So I have that somewhere, but I don't think I'm gonna have enough of this color or this color. So I have to find it. But I'm using the called for DMC for it. And I really like this little bird wearing a scarf. So I was glad to be able to use that. So that leads me, I still need like 340 stitches, 341 stitches to satisfy my W completely, but I'm at my partial goal of 1,200 stitches. For E, I had said when I did my 24 hours challenge this time, the marathon in June, I was working on Time Enough by Kathy Barrick, and I was not going to use this for my 24-hour challenge, even though I told everybody else it was fine and you could totally use what you stitched during the marathon for the monthly challenge. I was not going to, and I was going to do His Eyes on the Sparrow for E for I. And I just decided it was one of those, I just don't want to pull it out right now. I'm not, it's just a lot to get back into the mindset when you haven't stitched on something like that. Talked enough about that. So I decided I was going to use the stitches from the 24 hours to count for this. So this I actually used for E, and then I'm using it again for T because I had over, it's like 5,000 stitches or 6,000 stitches that I did on it during the 24 hours. So I have a finish on this one. I didn't show it in my last video. I got a finish on this during the marathon, not in the 24 hours, but during, the day after. I got it before the marathon was over. So I got it during the 48 hours. I love this piece. If you are looking to purchase it, it is available on Kathy Barrick's Etsy shop. It's out of print though otherwise. So, but you can get it there. I did make a few changes. I changed the colors of in here. It called for a pale yellow and a pale like blue, and I made it a gray, and I made this the yellow that is in the bird's beak up here. I also, it's really hard to see. It's a very, very subtle change. The 2 and the 4 I did in the navy blue instead of the black that the rest of the letters are in because I wanted to kind of commemorate 24. And the hours I kept on the 1 and the 9 because I stitched it during 2019. The hashtags and everything, they were supposed to be in white, and I changed it to, I think, 415 DMC. And then I subbed my initials. The L was supposed to be here and the J was supposed to be there, and I switched them and I stitched them in a different color. So I did them in the 415. And I'm really happy with how this turned out. And then my mom found this frame. She actually had something in it that she took out of it. Don't have it totally done yet, but you can kind of see. So I'm going to frame it in this, and I feel like that works. It goes right up. I like things framed right up to the edge. So very happy with how that one worked. So I got my 2400 using that for E and T. For N, I'm working on Map of Cochran Hollow, and you've probably seen it 1,000 times. I'm doing this. I started this for Madness 2018, and it's one of those, it's interesting. Part of the problem with starting 1,000 things is you learn more about your preferences with stitching, and if I had to start this again today, I would have done things differently. I wouldn't have stitched it on the fabric I'm stitching it on, and I would have probably subbed out some colors. However, you all have heard my issues with NPI conversions. I don't think this one's terrible. And I think sometimes it's not necessarily the conversion, it's how it responds to the fabric you're stitching it on. Because I don't feel like this one's that far off from what you see in the pattern picture. I worked on this a little bit more today than after I've written down, but I'm at least at 1,500 stitches on this. This is where I was before the month started. I've gotten this much done. So I went all the way down here and started the problem with big things I'm showing. I started the rocks down here. I got all of this lined here. I did make a mistake somewhere in here, so like there was a little error here that nobody's ever going to know because it's like one stitch off and it's grass. And then I've just kind of been going over and trying to get like my kind of places kind of in, because I think this one might be an okay one to take to StitchCon because there's going to be a lot of fill in, and so I could work on like the water and things that are just pretty repetitive. My hesitancy is I don't love, my stitches lay pretty neatly, but I'm not like crazy like about railroading and things like that. I didn't learn about it until more recently, and my stitches generally lay pretty neat. I'm not entering any of my stuff into any fairs, but I get a little like, I don't know that I want people to look at this super up close that are like really conscious and like have the tools to lay their stitches right, because I want stitching to be enjoyable, so I don't always put that extra so that's where I am on that one. I'm happy with that. I'm pretty sure my goal, ultimate goal for this year, is I would like to be able to finish a piece that I have started from every size category of my little wall cards. So that falls into my big ass project size. So I'm thinking I want this to be my big finish for this year. So I'm gonna probably keep that as like my focus piece and try to just make sure I'm working through it. I had toyed originally when I was doing the 24-hour plan just to only work on that piece and try, I had all the letters kind of tied into it. And I really would like to have that one done. We'll see. Probably won't happen. Y, because we already did T because it was time enough. I was going to do Barbara Anna, all creatures, great and small, because there is a yellow jacket. I was struggling with Y. There are bees up here. So, yellow jackets. I don't know if they're really yellow jackets, but they are bees. So, this is where I was. This is another one. It's just going really slow for me. I've gotten about 750 stitches on it so far. I finished the barn, and I've kind of gone through. This little child looks like a little duck. I don't know. It doesn't really look like a person to me. And then I go down as opposed to over because I roll my fabric, and I find it rolls nicer if the stitching is even on it. So I haven't really figured out where I want to go with it yet, or if I'm going down, or if I'm going over, or what my process is. I love this piece. I'm doing it on 40 count sand dune. The other one must be vintage sand dune. Or no, that one's 36. That's why they feel different. But it's Lakeside Linens. So that's where I am. I subbed the color for the barn. The barn was supposed to be in the pink. That is, I'm using the DMC. It's charted in DMC and Anchor. That's like terrible. Sorry, guys. It's supposed to be the pink that's over here. I didn't want a pink barn, so I did it with DMC 3777. I wanted my barn to be red. So that I'm doing for Y, but then I was like, it was another one of those like, okay, I need to pull something else out that I'm going to work on that can also count for Y. So I pulled out Be Thankful. Started this for Madness this year. This is another one I'm struggling with. Started it on 36 count Confederate Gray by Weeks Dye Works. I struggle with Weeks Dye Works because of the consistency of their linen, although I've heard they're changing it, so I'm super excited, but I don't know how you guarantee you're getting the new one and not the old one, because I love the color of their linens. I can never get my tension right on it. And so I had heard some people that stitch typically with one strand on 36 count will do 2 strands on theirs, just because it's a looser feel. So I did, and I think it will be fine once I iron it, but I'm feeling very self-conscious about these stitches. So I have the B and the E. B and the E. And I don't mind like the black where that is double stranded. The house, there's a lot of, it was 3 stitches and then you're skipping. It was like a checkered board pattern type. And I don't know if it's just because of the way I stitched it. I feel like they're laying funny. Because I went like down and I think just because of the thread that was in the back, it's not, I don't know. I just feel like it looks messy and I don't like it. But I think when I iron it, it'll be better. They just don't look how I normally stitch. So I'm a little bummed with this, but I've gotten like 620 stitches done on it. So it's one my mom stitched years ago and I had seen it in her house and I loved it. And then I saw Jackie stitching it on Instagram and loved her smaller version of it. I think she's also doing it on 36 count Confederate Gray. I think I was just copying her. And I do that. If I like what you're doing, I might steal your ideas. But I won't say they were my ideas. I will. They're your ideas. So I don't know. Struggling a little bit with it, but I don't want to like abandon it yet. Also struggling with it because that's what I'm using the same fabric for your Cochran Hollow. And again, I just don't feel like my stitches are good enough. For F, I decided to use my Daily 30 piece, which is HL's Moth by Kathy Barrick. I started this with Diana. She's doing, and Amy, they're doing the magical Moth Sow. And I decided I had to do it. So I just didn't want to do it in NPI. And I redid a conversion to Gentle Arts. And because Gentle Arts is definitely my favorite. My first time doing like a full conversion like that's a lie. I did Autumn on Lazy Bear Mountain as a conversion too. But this one was like, I didn't compare floss colors. I compared the picture and pulled colors that I thought would work. I'm keeping this one. I tried to pull bags that I thought you guys might not have seen. I'm keeping this in my Halloween bag because it has the... I thought I'd be able to get a finish this month, and I'm not there yet. Not terribly far off. For the most part, I'm pretty happy with my colors. I struggled a little bit because this down here, it's really, the color I picked is Pebble, and I thought it was going to be really gray, and then it feels blue. But I think with the other colors in it, it's kind of muted. And then the purple up here, I was going to use something different, but it was too close in color, so I'm using a darker purple there than what was originally on there. So it's more purpley than I normally go for, but I think it works. It took me a little bit to decide if I really liked it, but I'm pretty happy with how it's coming together. I'm finding the left wing to be a lot harder. Left wing? Right wing? It's left right now, right when I turn it my way. The wing that is not finished, I'm finding harder to stitch because of, I should turn it upside down, but I'm not. And I have, I don't know, a lot of stitches on that one, over 2,400, because I was doing, and with the 30 minutes, I tend to range from about 145 stitches to about 225, depending on how much color changing I'm doing and whatnot. So it's getting there. I haven't picked it up in the past couple days just because life's been life. For O, I was planning on doing Autumn on Lazy Bear Mountain. Oh, F, I was originally going to do Let Freedom Ring. And did I say what I was originally going to do for T? No, I did not. T was going to be And a Forest Grew. And it was one of those, I can use something else for that letter. I'm not pulling a big piece out. So I didn't get that. I didn't touch that one this month. Autumn on Lazy Bear Mountain. This is what it looks like. This is where I was. Got a bunch done on this one. I'm not at 2,400, but I gotten almost 1,800 on it. I don't know why I hold this all the way out. I could just fold it over. I feel like you need to see the massive amount of fabric that it goes for. I am so glad, for those of you that have watched, that I restarted this. I was originally doing it, I started it for Madness this year and was doing it on 35 count mink with DMC. I restarted it on 36 count Autumn Gold by Lakeside Linens, and I did a Gentle Arts conversion. I love it. Got a little bit of a start on the house. Yeah, I love everything about it. So that's where I am on that. And then yesterday, Brandon and I went out to discover a new to us brewery in Mansfield. And I decided I wanted to be a person that could stitch in public because I don't usually take my stitching out of the house. So I made a little stitching purse bag. This is a little tiny for it. My mom's going to make me another bag. But Pretty Southern had sent me over this beer bag in real size. And so I purchased the small one to go with it. And so I made a little travel purse bag, and I threw one of the Boo Moon pieces that I started for Mania because it's not a lot of color change, and it was pretty much just standard, going through the stitches. So this is where I was when I started, and I got about 215 stitches done on him yesterday. So that takes me, I need like 388 more for O. I don't know if I'll get them done or not, but I love these little things. Stitching these on 36 count Murky by Picture This Bliss. Then for U, I was going to do Savior's Praise because it's spelled with U, and it confuses me every time I look at the word Savior because I do not typically spell it with U. And again, it was just one of those, I just wasn't in the mind frame to pull out another big project. So we were going to Craft Gallery because they were having their third Thursday stitch-in on Thursday. And so I grabbed some projects that I thought would be easy to sit and stitch with people around me. And didn't have a plan for how I could use it yet, but I grabbed Jenny Bean's Friendship Sampler. I did the Halloween one, and I have this one. I started it for Madness, and I figured with the house it would be an easy one to just kind of sit, and it's repetitive and be able to do there. So it lives in my coffee bag. I love you more than coffee, just not before coffee. And I'm stitching this on 36 count mellow, something by Picture This Bliss. This is where I was. And I was like, I pulled it out to do there, and I was like, there's got to be a letter. I should be able to use a letter. What could I use for you? And it has an alphabet on it. So there's a U on it, but I felt like that was kind of a lame connection for me. So I decided it was under construction. So, because the house was I had very little done on the house, and that was how I was going to tie it into you. So I have loved this. I had a little bit of, when I started it for Madness, I had started it on a piece of fabric that had been labeled the wrong size, and then I had momentary lapses on how to count, and so I forgot that when I stitch on 32 count, I used 2 strands, and it was like really sparsely done. So I ended up restarting it on the piece of 36 count, and I'm really glad I did. I really like it. Using, I think it's called For Gentle Arts. I did make a mistake on the bricks, so one of the bricks is a little bit longer than the others, but which means another one of the bricks is a little bit shorter than one of the others, but bricks aren't always uniform. Under construction U. I have I'm over my 1,200, but I didn't update. I stitched on this today too, so I'm not sure. I'm close. I think I might be at like 1,800 on that. Then for R. R is like my letter that I am just like every single thing that I could work on, I'm working on. I've got like 4 projects to show for one letter, and I'm still not at 1,200 stitches. Originally, my goal was Serenity Harbor. Serenity Harbor, big, huge, massive piece. And I think this was the one that I started working on that was like, I need to stop working on really big pieces right now. I need a break from this. And I think I would have enjoyed it more if I was down, because I'm still up in this top part. If I had been down in the full coverage, that was more the style stitching I was in the mood to do. All these clouds, you're jumping around so much, and it's just, I have this big magnet board, and I'm taping patterns together and lining them up, and I just don't like that. So I only got about almost 700 stitches on this one. This is where I was, and this is what I've gotten done. So the next section I start will get me to be doing the full coverage. It will take me down to where the boat is, I think. Or I might have one more section without full coverage. I don't know. I didn't look at where it was. I'm stitching this on 40 count lamb's wool. I am using called for DMC. I really love this piece. I really, really love it. It's just the chair I sit in upstairs when I stitch, and I really like my stitching light upstairs. It has very stiff arms, and I feel very claustrophobic when I'm using my stitching light and a big magnet board and all that kind of stuff, and a big huge piece of fabric. And so I don't love stitching up there. And then if I sit on the couch up there, it has like the recliner, but then your back goes down too, so like you can't sit up straight. When I'm down here, I sit on the couch, but I have my legs up on the couch, so I'm sitting, my legs are up, but it's not a reclining couch. And I don't feel nearly as claustrophobic when I sit that way. So I think that's been part of the problem too. And then I feel like I can't stitch upstairs, and I'm usually upstairs in the evenings, and that's when I'm stitching. And anyway, when we went to Craft Gallery, I also pulled out And Rudolph by La-Di-Da, because this is one of my Stitch 9 challenges, and I hadn't really touched it because I kind of forgot about Stitch 9, and then the year's almost half done, and I'm not almost half done my Stitch 9 challenges. So I decided I would pull this one out. I only got about 130 stitches in on it, but I think this one I might take with me to StitchCon. This is where I was when I started. Started this for Madness last year and haven't touched it, I don't think, since. Maybe once. So I got a little bit more of the reindeer up top are done, and I will start like the border and doing the writing. I'm doing 35 count mink by R&R and using 1 strand DMC. That's where I am on that one. I got about 133 stitches on that. Then on the 21st was Gnome Day, and the Southern Stitcher and Donna Ray were hosting a little Gnome Day festivities, Dying to Stitch, and I couldn't get there, but I wanted to be able to participate. So Donna Ray sent me a cute little gnome care package with the cutest little card and this awesome little gnome sponge, some DMC in gnome colors for their hats, and cute little gnome needle minder. And I had my mom whip up a gnome project bag, so it's got the mushroom fabric inside. It's very pink and bright, but I was having a hard time getting my hands on some gnome fabric. So I have this, and I started Gnomes in a Garden Row. I have a lot of these Bent Creek rows done, and I had picked this up because I struggle with what to like display in my house in spring and summer, and I felt like this kind of fit because it's not super pastel-y and stuff. So I got to start on this. I'm doing it on a piece of 32 count flax. I always stitch the Bent Creek stuff with DMC, but these colors I'm not loving. And so I struggled. I started this on Friday, the 21st. It was off the grid, so I was like, I'm just going to stitch only on that. I'll get it. I can usually finish these in a day or two. And I just didn't get nearly as far as I thought I would. And I think it was just because I wasn't playing with much color. So I like it. I like it looking back at it now. I think I just wasn't in the mood to work on it then. So I put it away for a bit. But I got about 584 stitches in on that. And then I was just in the mood to stitch on Riley Harbor because I haven't touched it in a while. Again, it's another one of my Stitch 9 challenges. This is where it was. And I needed to stitch with gray, so I knew I could pull this out. I thought I was going to be able to start the whale, but I didn't. So I needed to stitch with gray, so I did up in here. But I'm on the second page. I'll be getting to the whale. I love this piece. I really do. Like, I just love everything about it. I'm doing it on 40 count exemplar by Lakeside Linens. I'm using the called for DMC. And the whale is in like a Gloriana silk. I did change houses up here where I think it was that house was charted to be in the whale color, and I decided I didn't want the whale to be in the houses because I wanted the gray that he's in to just kind of pop with him. So I changed that. I just pulled a different gray out. So I still have to get stitches on W, N, Y, O, U, and R. I think I'm failing my challenge, guys. We'll see. I might not. I might be able to pull it out, but I'm not going to stress. Doesn't matter if I don't get it done. I'm participating and I'm meeting certain things, and I realized I don't want stitching to become a chore. So if I'm getting overwhelmed and feeling like I have to stitch today because I haven't touched it, and, you know, dreading that, I don't want that feeling to accompany stitching. So not going to. If, you know, if it means I'm not meeting some of my challenge goals, I may not meet my challenge goals. July, I'm excited to be starting some different things, but I'm really kind of wanting to finish. Magical Stitches, we have to keep like a whip album going of 20 projects, and mine had been filled with my biggest projects. And you have to keep it going because at any point they might say, oh, work on project 16, or oh, work on, you know, your biggest out of the list or your smallest out of the list. And because of my experience with my really big projects, this time I'm going to make a new one that has some projects that I might be able to finish if they call on it, or kind of went through all of my whips and tried to go which ones I'd like to see done this year. What's realistically for the rest of the year can I finish? So I made a new list, and I'm going to be updating that before I go to StitchCon. So I think that'll be good. I am a really big project stitcher. I really do like big projects. I just think trying to work on so many simultaneously was too much. Maybe. So I'm excited for June, July. June's done. And yes. So I think that is pretty much the gist of what's happening in my life. We will be announcing the new July plans for 24-hour group. So those I'll be doing a separate video. That way, for those of you that aren't interested in it, don't need to sit through my rambles about it. And yeah. Again, super, super thankful for what this community is and what you bring to my life, and for your encouragement. And I just love stitching with all of you. So thank you for stitching with me, and thank you for embracing the things that I do and being so kind with your words. And I just really, really, really appreciate it. Can't tell you the timing of this community in my life has been so, so beneficial. As my mom would say, it was a God thing. So thank you for being that to me, and I hope that I can in some way be that back for you. Like I said, going to StitchCon, Brandon will be manning the fort here with my dad, and gonna see what my stitching schedule can be like and how it's gonna go. I think it'll be good. I stitched a lot last year and I was working full-time. I don't need to be scared that I'm not going to finish anything. You know, I think I'll actually realistically be able to have similar stitching times. I'm not not spending all day stitching most days. Today, yes. Today I did mostly just stitch. But I think it'll work. So, Brandon's going to edit in those pictures, so this probably won't actually be up until Tuesday, because my mom and I are going to be going live on Facebook group to go over the 24-hour stuff. So if you saw that, great. If you still have questions and need me to answer anything, please just let me know. I will be checking back. My goal is to have a recap video up for StitchCon when I get back. So if you are there and you see me, come say hi. And I'm looking forward to meeting and connecting some more faces with names. I tend to know Instagram names the best, so don't be offended if I call you by your Instagram screen name. You can call me Quirks and Stitches. That's fine. But I will say, before I was Quirks and Stitches all over the internet, I was Quiet Shy Girl, and that was very appropriate for my being in large groups of people. So I'm a little overwhelmed. I have like the deer in the headlights. Just tell me it'll be okay, and I don't think I'll be that bad. But there's no wine allowed in the convention room, so I might be more myself in the late night stitching room. So I'm going to get some comfy clothes. I know there's this big bunch of people that are dressing fancy. I'm not. I don't dress fancy for real life. I'm not dressing fancy for stitching. I want to be comfy. So looking forward to meeting some people. Looking forward to sharing all that. I'm rambling. It's time for me to stop. Okay, guys. Happy stitching. Bye.